Hi guys, I'm EVM and welcome back to the channel. I hope you had a very good Christmas. I hope you'll have an even better new year. And speaking of next year, this video is going to be listing every single full electric vehicle, no hybrids, that's going to be available for delivery in 2020. So if it's available for pre-order next year, that's not going on the list. It's just cars that are either available in 2020 or are predicted to be delivered to at least somebody in 2020. I'm going to tell you the starting price, or at least the predicted price, not every model, just the starting entry-level price, and the predicted real-world mileage. So, if like me, you're in the market for a new full electric vehicle, but hopefully, unlike me, you can actually afford the one you're after, then fingers crossed this video should be of interest because it's an entire list of everything that's available in 2020, unless I've missed one off. And no doubt somebody will tell me in the comments if I have. Right, now I'm going to start in alphabetical order. Why not? Makes it easy. So that means we are starting with the Audi e-Tron, or if you're in France, e-Tron means turd. So the Audi turd starts at £58,000 and above, and a predicted real-world range of 175 miles. If you want to watch any of the videos of the cars that I've already driven, have a look in the channel, of course. So yes, that's clearly a premium car, a premium brand, and it's an expensive one. Not a great range either. It's not bad, but it could have been a lot better for what I expect out of Audi. Another Audi coming out, the Audi e-Tron Sportback. This apparently starts at £60,000 and will do about 180 miles of range. So Audi are clearly going for the top end market, and I don't think we're going to see any full electric Audi that's kind of like at the A1 size for quite some time. So yeah, premium only from a premium brand, not surprising. Okay, moving on. BMW, the i3 of course, and the i3S. That has been for sale for quite some time, and I think it's due to be sold for the next few years at least, and at least one more battery upgrade on its way as well. That starts at just over 31.5 grand and does about 145 miles in the real world on the current battery size, of course. Now, it's probably worth saying that I think there's a bit of movement in the BMW i3 price. That's it. A lot of manufacturers are saying that's the price. It's a list price. That's all you're paying. You have to buy it online. There's no haggling at all. Whereas with others, like the i3, I think there will be a bit of movement there, especially cars that have been out a while. So these are the list prices, remember, but some of them you will be able to beat that list price. Another BMW coming out, full electric, the iX3. Now, personally, in terms of a petrol diesel car, a standard car, the X3 for me is a hateful car. I think it looks awful and there's just no reason for it. I would always go for a 3 Series over an X3. It's basically the same size. Especially the fact that, although this one apparently will do over 220 miles in the real world, it's also going to be costing about 56 grand or above. Whew. An X5 perhaps, but an X3? Eek. The DS3 Crossback E-Tense next. Basically a posh Citroen, 32 and a bit thousand pounds and 170-ish real-world miles. It looks kind of funky, kind of French. It'll be kind of cool, but I don't know. It just seems a little bit too expensive for me for a starting price. That's the cheapest, and I know it's meant to be a premium Citroen. For me, Citroen is about value. Ultimately, I think that needs to be a few grand cheaper. And if DS. Or anything like with their petrol diesel cars, there might be some movement on that price, so worth a look. Now this one is one that I'm undenied about whether or not it should go in the video, because I can't really get a clear-cut answer of whether or not it will actually be available for delivery this coming year. It's going to be launched apparently at Geneva Motor Show in March, and it's the Fiat 500 electric. It will probably sell really well. A predicted price of around 27 grand. And a range of about 140 miles in the real world. It's cool, it's small, it's Italian, people love the Fiat 500. It'll be a perfect car if you're a 2-car family, I think. It's going to be very good. It's obviously going to compete against the Mini and a few others I'll mention here, but I'm looking forward to driving it at least, because the Fiat 500 is very well loved. Now, the first proper Ford full electric car, the Mustang Mach-E, a car of course I am very familiar with. This starts at 40 grand predicted. It's not going to be set in stone for several months yet, and a real world range of about 220-ish or above. For me, I really like this car, not just because I was out there, but because it wasn't just another SUV. It's got a bit of personality to it. I think when you compare that against the Tesla Model Y, in terms of looks, I'd go for the Mustang. I think it just looks interesting. The back's a bit off, but cars have to have a personality. I always say this, cars should have a personality. And for me, this did, or does. Although I think the cheaper version, the 40 grand upwards one, probably won't sneak into the UK until early 2021. Next, this for me is going to be a cult classic. Due to the fact it won't sell brilliantly in terms of numbers. It'll sell everything they make, but they're not going to make a lot. It's going to be rare. It's not going to be practical for a family car. It's not going to have great range, but it looks really cool. This will be a classic car. I'm sure it will be. It's the Honda E. Looks really cool in kind of a funky sort of arty way. But 26 and a bit £1,000 starting price and 125 mile average rear wheel range. Yeah, in terms of a practical family car or even a practical small car, I don't think it's going to be that good. It's a car to look good in as opposed to go to the shops in. Sticking with the H's, we have two Hyundais, or if you're in America, Hyundai. The Ioniq, or Ioniq, never sure how to pronounce it. This has just had a recent refresh and it's just under £30,000 list, although I think there are deals around on that one. It just reminds me of a taxi, so it probably will be a good taxi. For just under 30 grand or less if you haggle, I'll say 160 to 80 mile range. Out of the battery size it's got, that's pretty good. Definitely one to look for, and there has been some immense lease deals over the past month or so. The Hyundai Kona now, which is basically a compact SUV, brilliant car. Wish it was a bit more practical. The rear needs to be a bit bigger, the boot a bit bigger. It has immense range. We're talking about a 245 miles of real world range. About £35,000 price, so it's not cheap. Better range than a Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus, for example. It needs to drop in price a little bit for me to be a cracking value car. 35 is a bit much. Now, I'm sure they did a smaller battery version of the Kona, but looking on Hyundai's website, it's not listed. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Moving up market a little bit now, the Jaguar I-Pace. This one starts at about £60,000 and goes all the way up. And we'll do about 220, 230 miles in the real world. But it's a proper ground-up EV, which is a really big thing for me. It's a big advantage. The reason why I didn't like the EQC as much as I should have done is because it was effectively a compromise. It had a transmission tunnel, and I use this example all the time, a transmission tunnel with no transmission in it because it's the electric version of a petrol car. It had a little bit of personality again. It had a bit about it. It wasn't trying too hard to be an SUV. It was just trying to be something that's fun. A good driver's car. Moving on, because we're not quite halfway through yet, the Kia eNiro, a car I ordered and then cancelled my order because they put the price up. Well, that price now is £34,500. There's no haggling on this one. It is a fully spec'd version, so you get all the toys, and you get about 235 miles of real world range, maybe even a little more to be honest. It's basically the same underpinnings as the Kona, and I really liked it. It's a Kona but with a bigger rear, a bigger boot. It's a good practical family car with a very, very efficient, good electric range. And as I said, if it was a few £1,000 cheaper, I would have probably have bought one by now. Another Kia, which is ultimately got the same battery size, but it's a smaller version of it. It's the Kia Soul EV. Now, when the first Soul came out, I thought this was one of the ugliest cars you could buy. I thought, oh, that's awful. Only a mother could love that face. But this new one, I think, at least, well, from the front anyway, I think this looks really nice, especially in that colour. And you're going to get at least 250 miles of real world range. Unfortunately, the price, 33,800-ish. It's, you're about 800, nearly about £1,000, give or take, off a Kia eNiro. You might as well spend the extra around £1,000 and get the much bigger car. And of course, Kia are doing what a lot of manufacturers are doing. They're saying, no, if you want the electric car version, you're going to have to buy the top spec. And that's annoying me now. It's starting to get tiring. Well, all this talking is making me thirsty. Moving back to the premium sector now, Mercedes, the EQC, which I mentioned earlier. If you're in for a luxury SUV electric car, there's not much that's better than this in terms of luxuriness. The whole package you're buying from the premium manufacturer, it was brilliant. It has some serious flaws, as I mentioned earlier, the compromises. From Mercedes, I expected way better. If you're in the market for a premium SUV, I would go for this over the e-Tron Turd any day. Starts at 62 grand and about 220 miles of real world range. So yeah, it's a lot more efficient than the Turd is, but again, I think given the size of the battery, I think Mercedes could have done better with this. Now, we're moving all the way from the premium to the, I'll say, value sector. It's the MG EZS. Prices start at £22,000 and you get about 140 miles of real world range. Now, yes, this isn't the best interior in the world, although it's not bad at all. You get a 7-year warranty. Well, the electric version has been tested now, and that's got 5 stars on the NCAP rating, so it's not the car a lot of people think it is. It's about the size of an eNiro, so it's a decent practical size. The interior's okay, cheap bits, but you know, you get what you pay for. And for 22 to 24.5 grand, you can't go wrong. It's so good, in fact, that my brother has ordered one. He's awaiting delivery of his EZS. Sticking with the M's, we are at the Mini Electric. Now, I have to say, I am a Mini fan. I have a Cooper S in the garage right now. And this one will probably be brilliant interior, a car with a great personality. It will look, well, it just looks like a normal Mini. And it starts at 24,400, which is actually slightly cheaper than the Cooper S that it's based on, in list price terms anyway. So from the outset, this looks like a cracking car. Unfortunately, there is one slight downside, and that's the predicted real world range will be about 115 miles, which is about 5 or 10 more than the 30 kilowatt-hour Leaf that I have sat on the drive right now, which I bought nearly 4 years ago. So the range is by today's standards, it's low. It's quite crap, if I'm perfectly honest. Oh God, I am thirsty today. Now, I wasn't going to mention any kind of commercial vehicles on this one, but I guess you could class this as a car, for, you know, as a private car. The Nissan NV200, which is basically a 7-seater, I think it's 7-seater. It's a minivan, basically, that's full electric. It's a 40 kilowatt-hour battery, popular for a taxi. Starts around 30 grand and 115 miles-ish of range. Obviously, it's a taller, heavier car. If you've got a large family, then there's not many options out there beyond things like Tesla Model X's, which are immensely expensive. There's not many options, so that's one of them. Well, we're past halfway now, guys. I hope you're still with me. busy year next year coming out in electric car terms. Sticking with Nissan, of course, the Nissan Leaf in 40 and the E Plus 60 odd kilowatt-hour battery size. Now, this is a car which I do not rate at all. I've said this many times, I've gone from 2 Nissan Leafs myself. I would not touch the E Plus at all. The price is ridiculous, about 36 grand upwards, 190 mile range, 200 mile range. The 40 kilowatt hour, however, yeah, it's not got the thermal battery management, and it's basically a nearly 10-year-old car that's been rehashed with a real world range of about 135 miles. Just a little bit of research has told me that for less than 24 grand, 24,000 pounds for a near top spec Nissan Leaf 40. The compromise then, it makes it worthwhile. If you can get one of those for 23 grand in good spec, I can live with that. Next, the Peugeot E208. Now this is a small car, predicted range of about 170 miles, 28.5 grand-ish of price according to Peugeot's website. This for me is a 26 grand car. 28.5. We're talking electric car terms now, of course. 26 is an expensive car. You don't have to say that if you don't like EVs. But for me, this is a grand or two too much for the entry-level version. But I have to say, Peugeot, thank you, Peugeot. They've actually released all trim levels, the entry as well as the top spec, from the get-go. Might as well mention the next Peugeot, of course, the E2008. Same range, 170-ish in the real world, and say about the same price, 28.5 grand. It's just an SUV version of the 208, a slightly taller, slightly more practical version, because obviously the world likes SUVs at the moment. I'm not a fan of them, but they're everywhere. Availability shouldn't be a problem. It's made on the same production lines. They can just turn the knob, as it were, and produce more if they sell more. So there shouldn't be a ridiculous waiting list. Now, a car that's been touted for a while, 270 miles of real world range, at least at launch anyway, and it starts about 50 grand. It's the Polestar 2. Now, it will be a cheaper version, which is said to be around the 35 grand mark, but that will not be available next year at all. Just this version, as far as I can tell. So a good range, clearly aimed at the Tesla Model 3 sort of market. It's a Volvo XC40. So there's going to be some compromises there. However, it's trying to be just one thing, kind of like a sportier electric car. You know, it's going to be quick, good range, premium. For those that have even more money though, we're talking 80 grand starting price now. Of course, the Porsche Taycan, a car which has been around YouTube a lot recently and does about 250 odd miles in the real world. It's a Porsche, what more can you say? The interior will be flawless, the ride will be immense, it will be quick. Not quite as quick as the Tesla Model S. Yes, I know that, but ultimately it's a very good manufacturer. You know, forgetting cost for a second, they know how to make cars. It's, for me, one of the first cars that a young child will want to put a poster of on their wall. That is when we get to that stage of electric cars becoming normal, when it's an aspirational car. Now, one of my now favourite cars, actually, in terms of the range you get, the price it's at, the all-round package, really. It's the Renault Zoe, the newer facelifted 50 kilowatt hour version. 25.5 grand starting price. They no longer do the battery lease version, and at least 200 miles of real world range. So in terms of pound per mile, you're getting over 200 miles at 25.5 grand. And it's a lot more practical. It's a lot bigger than people think it is. The front, like any other car, is fine for anybody. The boot, it's almost the size of a Ford Focus is. That's how big the boot is. It's a good size boot. It's only really the rear bench that lets it down in terms of practicality, if it was like a family car. For the price, you really cannot argue. 25.5 grand for over 200 miles of range. There's not many that come close to that in terms of value. Next is the Seat Elborn. I think I'm pronouncing that right, the Elborn. It's Seat's version of the ID3. 28 grand starting price-ish and about 200-ish miles of real-world range. So it's effectively an ID3, but probably a little bit cheaper. Yeah, I'm quite curious to see this one. If it's just effectively an ID3 with a different badge and a cheaper price on it, it's probably one worth looking at. Sticking with Seat, this effectively again is a rebadged Volkswagen. The Up, or in this case the Mii Electric, it starts again at less than £20,000. Apparently about 19.5 grand. Does about 120 odd miles in the real world. Clearly, by its size, it's a city car. I mean, it's a small car, very small car. So if you just want a cheap city electric car, this could be the one. Or maybe not, because the next car is the Skoda CitiGo. This is the same car, effectively. It's just got a Skoda badge on it instead of a Volkswagen or a Seat badge on it. So same range, 125 odd miles, but apparently this one will start at 17 grand. 17 grand for 120 odd miles of range. Again, if you've got if you're a two-car household, this could be an immense value version. I think that one is definitely one to look at. I think it's the cheapest EV on sale in 2020, assuming the price is correct, of course. Might as well skip quickly through the next one. It's the Tesla Model 3. Of course, been out a while and will be out for a while yet. £38,500 at present because the prices change. And 210-ish miles of real world range. It'd be nice to see that drop below the 40 grand luxury car tax bracket, but considering they're selling everything they want to in the UK at the moment, I guess there's no need for them to do that. The Tesla Model S, of course, will be around next year, 77 grand and upwards. 320 miles of range. So 300 odd miles. A lot of people tell me that they want over 300 miles of range out of a car. Well, it exists now. It's expensive, but it will get cheaper. And of course, the Tesla Model X, £82,700, 285 miles real world range starting. So yeah, we all know about the Teslas, there's no point in going on about them. Let's move on to, well, we've got a lot left now, guys. This is a Vauxhall Corsa-E, the electric Corsa, which is just a rebadged version of the 208 electric. Same chassis, same car. Basically, this one starts at £26,500 and about 170-180 miles of real-world range. In terms of looks, I think I prefer the 208, if I'm honest. If the prices are correct that I've got here, it's about £2,000 cheaper than the Peugeot. Probably worth a look at just for that reason alone. The rest are all Vs still. The next one is a Volvo, the XC40 Recharge. Prices start at £50,000. 230 odd miles of real world range. It's going to be a very good car, very safe of course, very well built. Although it's going to be a very practical one, especially with a family. I think if I'm going to spend £50,000 on what is basically the same car, I would probably go for the Polestar 2 over that one. Now, this is interesting, a full electric vehicle that is going out of production. It's the Volkswagen eGolf. Now, I won't mention the list price on this because it's kind of pointless, because they're getting rid of them. You've got a real world range of about 120 odd miles. It's not brilliant, however, it's a Golf, so it's a very good practical family car. Good build quality, good ride, and I've had just a quick look around online, and right now, today, I can order an eGolf with no option, so I haven't ticked anything, for £21,500 for a Volkswagen eGolf. 21.5. The last two are also Volkswagens, so they're doing a big push on this one. The Volkswagen E-Up, which is just obviously another version of the Skoda and the Fiat that you saw earlier. Prices start on this at 20 grand, so it's about 3 grand dearer than the Skoda. 125 miles of real world range. Right, again, unless I've forgotten something, we're at the last car. The Volkswagen ID3, the launch version. And I say the launch version because the entry-level cheaper one will not be out in 2020. In fact, given the issues they've got at the moment, these software problems, I'm sure they'll overcome them, but I think this is going to be delayed. And I think this is going to be a lot more expensive than people think. There's so many people out there thinking this is going to be the people's electric car, and like 21.5 grand once the cheap version comes out. And it just isn't. The launch version anyway is going to be about 30 grand upwards. I think it's going to be a bit more personally. About 200-ish miles of real world range. What people are doing, they're thinking it's about 25 grand for the cheapest, you know, when it comes out for the cheap version. Then you knock 3.5 grand off and you're at 21.5. By 2021, by the time that comes up, I don't think there'll be a government grant for EVs, or a very much reduced one. And then what Volkswagen always do, and I mean always, they will charge extra for everything, including stuff that should be there as standard. For example, on the ID3, they're charging extra for the 100 kilowatt charging option. No other manufacturer does that. The eGolf, you had to pay more to get a heat pump. Every car that has the option of a heat pump, it should just have a heat pump. So in this case, you're going to be paying more for the 100 kilowatt option. That shouldn't be extra. They're going to charge you for the heat pump. That shouldn't be extra. You know, just put the entire price of the car up by 200 quid. Simplify your production line and give everything a heat pump. So we start off at 21.5 grand that people think. Get rid of the government grant, we're at 25. Add a couple of extras which you should have as standard and we're at 26.5 grand. So the cheapest ID3, I think, in real world, will be a £27,000 car in 2021. I hope I'm wrong, I really do, but I don't think I am. Oh God, all this talking is... Oh yeah. Right, so that's pretty much it. I hope you do have a good new year. Please let me know out of all this what you think, which one you would go for if you were going for a full EV, or if you've just ordered one. Some of these you're going to have had to put a deposit down now to get it in 2020. Some will be available within a couple of months of ordering. So yeah, it's changing. We're not there yet. I'm not going to say that this is the year. I think we're another year or two off the game-changing year. It's price now that's the problem, and availability. You may have noticed me getting some merch, as it's called. I will be doing a video about them very shortly, including a couple of t-shirts. I need your help with the phrasing on one of them, so keep an eye out for that over the next week maybe, and I'll tell you more pricing and that on that video. So yeah, just thought I'd sneak the merch in there in that video. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Again, have a great new year, and I'll see you soon.